I'm going to introduce you guys to my latest project that I've been working on, a DIY pool that I dug with this shovel alone. Shovel alone. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it rains a lot. I started this project in the fall, and with the huge amount of rain that we have, I wanted to construct a shed that runs over top of the pool to keep the area dry to work in, because it was many months of digging to get to this point. You may notice my weather station on the top. I'll talk about that in the future. The madness of the pool project. There's multiple different types of pools that you can use, and they really depend on what environment that you live in. Here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically Vancouver, we don't have much of a freeze-thaw cycle, so a concrete pool is an option. If you live in colder climates where you have a freeze-thaw cycle, then usually vinyl liner pools are king. Those are just similar to this, with an exterior concrete shell with either like a sand bottom or concrete bottom, and you wrap a liner inside, which does the waterproofing. So even if the concrete cracks over time, you still have that liner that holds the water. With a concrete pool, if a crack happens, then you have either huge repair bills or you have to rebuild the pool completely. So it really depends on your environment you live in. There's also fiberglass pools that are an option. Those are kind of a crane-in option that you bring in, but they have some limitations because if they crack, I think they're just a complete write-off, and there's lots of specific requirements. If you drain them even below the skimmers, you would void your warranty on the pool. So I'm not an expert on vinyl liner or on fiberglass pools, so I can't recommend them. So with this pool project, we're going to do a full concrete shell, and there's a few additional complications that I've made with this pool. One being that we have an existing concrete wall on two sides of the pool that we're planning on building into. The other two sides are dirt. So the additional complication was there's no additional space to pour the concrete and make a traditional form. So what we've done here is, with the existing concrete wall, we put in these things called blind coil ties, which are going to hold the formwork right up against it here, and we're going to pour directly onto the concrete. We have the concrete wall. My father built this house. This used to be a yard that we're standing in right now, and this was the wall that separates the walking path in the backyard from the garden. So when they poured this wall initially, they used board form concrete, and one of the issues is if one of the boards pops off, you have a huge blowout, and that's what happened here. One of the boards approximately here blew out, so the 8-inch wall up here turned out to be 12 to 14 inches down here. So to remedy the issue, what we did is we had to get a concrete saw and cut vertical lines and horizontal lines into the concrete, and then use a jackhammer to chip it out to get it so then when the concrete wall comes down, the existing concrete actually wouldn't poke through the new concrete, which would be not a very secure bond for the concrete. If you look here, we got 3 pipes. One's for the electrical, and I got 2 lines for internet, one for redundancy, and a gas line. We're going to do a smart pool system, which will automate the entire pool, so leading to simplicity for maintenance. The current stage that we're working on is plumbing, and excavation is obviously complete now. The most important thing I came up with is drainage. I think drainage is an underlooked topic in pools, especially in a place like Vancouver that receives a lot of rain. When I first excavated this hole, even with the covered roof, we had a lot of water ingress filling up. I would get 1.5 to 2 feet of water on a hard rain event inside here, and we had to put in a deeper hole, and we had a sump pump running, and even a couple days after it rained, all the groundwater would leach in here and fill the area up. So drainage is a very important part of a pool because if you ever drain a pool, you should never do it in the springtime or in the winter because groundwater is high in most areas and it can lift the pool out of the ground. And if your pool gets lifted out of the ground, you have to demolish the whole thing and start over again. So one, having proper drainage is very important, and two, knowing if you ever can drain your pool, consult a professional or do a lot of research before ever doing it because you're jeopardizing your investment if you do. So for with here, what we did is we ran a drain. We have two lines, one coming off my gutter, which comes back, and we're going to have hedges here so to catch the water for the irrigation system going through there. And we also have a secondary system, a perimeter drain that's sitting below the lowest level of the ground before the crush is on top, that runs all the way around the entire pool and then goes underneath the concrete wall and then drops down into my existing drain tile of my house, which catches all the water from my roof. And since we put the system in, even on the hardest rain day, there's never been even an inch of water inside, not even a millimeter. It stayed perfectly dry. So I know that if I never need to drain my pool, I'm not at risk of having the pool pop out of the ground. The stage that we're at with plumbing now is we've started on the suction system of the pool. So generally, well, you always have to have two main drains. So what you can see is we have two main drains for the pool, and we're also doing a hot tub. So we have two main drains. We're gonna have a dual pool pad system where there's gonna be two pumps, two filters, two heaters for heating each zone independently. So one zone is running under here, and there'll be a pool pump house in this side. And there's also going to be one on the other side of the hot tub wall. We're going to have a weir wall, which is a wall that's dividing the two different pool areas, pool and hot tub, and which is going to be running right across here. And here are our two dual main drains for the hot tub. They are going to be running to a separate area over here, which I'm calling the jet house, which is going to have a dedicated jet pump. And the reason for that is if you use the main pool pump, it's going to have to run all the way back to your main pool pad and then all the way back again before going through the jets. And you're going to lose a lot of efficiency running through 30 feet of pipe either direction back. So we're putting a dedicated pump right on the other side of the hot tub wall that's just going to be for the hot tub jets specifically. There's going to be a separate pump for its filtration system, and we're going to use dual air and water lines for the jets to work most efficiently. There's a Venturi system where it pulls air in from the top. Then we're going to have a dedicated blower, which is going to force air through the pipe system to lead to a much stronger jet system. One thing you may notice is a hole running through here. I'm going to experiment with a submerged liquid cooled Bitcoin miner, and we're going to try to use a heat exchanger to transfer the Bitcoin fluid, which will interchange with the hot tub water and transfer its heat to use a little bit of passive heating essentially for the pool. You need to cool the liquid for the Bitcoin miner, and also you want to heat your pool as cheaply as possible. So we're experimenting with a system there. Not sure how it's going to work fully, but we're trying to improve from Linus Tech Tips, where they had PEX piping running underneath their pool to cool their Bitcoin miner and to heat the pool. We think that using just directly pulling the water and going through a titanium heat exchanger will be much more efficient than what they've tried in their video. The type of pool I've decided on is a full concrete shell, and we're also doing a monopore. So we're going to be pouring everything at once instead of just pouring the floor first and then either using cinder blocks or concrete walls. Cinder blocks are a terrible idea unless you're using a vinyl liner pool, because the cinder blocks will move over time, the joints will crack, and you'll have leaking. So if you're thinking of building a DIY concrete pool and you're using cinder blocks, just don't unless you're going to put a vinyl liner inside, which in that case is fine. If you're going to go with a full concrete construction, you can pour the floor first and then pour the walls afterwards, but you're going to lead to a cold joint at the bottom, and you're going to have to do additional sealing of the joints to make sure. I hope you know that if you're building a pool, concrete is a porous substance. It is not waterproof. Even if you add agents to it, you need to do a a waterproofing membrane afterwards before you either put tile on top or use pebblecrete, or if you use any other sort of pool finish, you need to waterproof your pool first. But with a monopore, you're not going to end up with any cold joints because you're pouring the whole thing at once. It's just like if you use gunite or shotcrete, you're going to end up with a single shell and it'll be the strongest possible structure. I'm deciding to use forms because I don't have any experience with shotcrete. I don't have a shotcrete crew. I haven't used shotcrete before. Concrete forms are something I know and something I can do, and it's going to lead to the straightest possible walls. It does incur additional costs because you have all the form material in addition to it instead of just spraying it directly on, but it's something that I know and something that I feel I'll get a better result overall. We're also doing a perimeter overflow pool, which means there's no drain at the edges of the pool, your skimmer, which skims all the leaves out. The whole outside of the pool is going to be a drainage system. So there's going to be a gutter that runs all the way around the pool. So all the leaves and debris that's in the pool will go into the gutter system that are on the sides, and both sides will run down to this level here, which is going to be where the surge tank is. It has to be calculated based off your pool size and load size. So you have to do some calculations to figure out what size it needs to be, because if 10 people jump in the pool at once, all the water is going to go out into the drain. The water has to go somewhere. And if your overflow flank is too small, your overflow tank is going to overflow. So that's something that you have to consider. You should, in your overflow tank, have an overflow, which would be for winter purposes. When it rains all the time, you may not be running your pump. It'll be a drain that catches the additional water and drains out into the regular drainage system. But that's just really for emergency circumstances or for winterization. Our next step is we're going on to forming. As you saw before, we already have our blind ties in place and drilled into the wall. So we're waiting for the form plywood to come to be able to move on with that step. This wall led to some additional complications because I didn't want to excavate 5 feet further than I needed to and then have to backfill all the dirt and lead to some instability, especially because this ground is so hard. It's solid clay, it's glaciated soil here. There's an upper layer that's somewhat softer, kind of a fill type dirt that's easier to dig. But once you reach down to here, it's almost like concrete. You have to use a jackhammer to break it away. And the wall is going to come out to approximately here. So we have less than a foot of space to stabilize the forms. And traditionally you'd have a zuckel strap, which is like a board on a 45-degree angle, with this guy right here tied into it to stabilize it and to adjust it to get that proper tip of the wall. In this scenario, we don't have the option. I learned something from apartment, or from when you build a high-rise, when you dig the structure all the way down, what they do to stabilize the walls is they dig and then they use soil anchors, which are long tubes of rod with concrete filled into it, and then a mesh over top, and then they shoot shotcrete. This is how they dig down, 5-8 stories down and stabilize the soil so it doesn't collapse. So I'm trying to modify that idea and kind of use it to make a very minimal wall spacing. So my plan is we're going to use a soil drill. We're going to drill into the clay, which is very dense, and we're going to use this rod. We're going to drive it inside the hole and fill it up with concrete, and we're going to bend this tab up so the plywood will sit against this, and we'll also have the adjustment in the strap to be able to move the form. Most likely these will be sacrificial. They're going to be stuck inside the concrete, inside the wall forever, but once the pool is poured, we can still undo these straps, pull the board out, and we'll have a stable wall without having to do additional 5 feet of digging to do a traditional form technique. I haven't seen it done before, but based off what I've seen from other videos, it seems like something I can modify to make work. If you find this type of content interesting, follow along. We're going to be doing a lot more crazy projects, and obviously this project, there's a lot more to go before we get to the completion of it.